Now, VTubers are a type of content creator where the person doesn't show their real face, but instead uses a virtual avatar to make videos. Here's an example of a VTuber called Iron Mouse. Now, the channel isn't run by an artificial intelligence. There's a real person using a webcam or iPhone camera to track their movements in the real world, and those movements are then translated through software onto the virtual avatar which we see on the video. And I think you can already notice one of the reasons why it just might not be a good idea for Christians to watch certain VTubers. Yes, there's a lot of really wholesome ones. There's nothing wrong, I don't think, with watching someone like Samako Saba or Filian or Pipkin Pippa. However, this really comes to your personal conscience, where you might face some of these temptations and you know yourself that this is a sin that you fall into really easily. Is it then really such a wise thing for you to do if you decide to watch a VTuber who uses a really sexualized model? Maybe it is the case that they have a really good personality and they're very good at small talk and providing commentary while they're playing a game. Maybe they're playing a game and they're really good at it, or the way that they react is really cute. Look, there may be other reasons as to why you're watching a VTuber, but at the same time, I know that I don't really want to be looking at things bouncing while I'm watching someone play Minecraft. So there's some wisdom there that has to be applied, and it's all based on your personal conscience. I personally think as a society overall, we should be working to try and desexualize everything in general, but right now, these are the current state of these online spaces, and you just gotta make that decision. And that's not to mention the character that Iron Mouse is playing is that she's playing the character of a demon. Now, I'm pretty sure she isn't doing it to explicitly worship Satan. She's probably doing it out of ignorance or just for the cool aesthetic of her character, but there are a lot of VTubers who definitely lean into the succubus or demonic imagery as part of the character that they play. Like, I know even a channel like Fuamoko, I really like watching their karaoke streams because they're really good at singing, and just listening to them in the background is they're really cute when they're playing video games. They're not very good, but they're really cute, and I just like watching cute things. But part of the character that they play is that they're demon guard dogs. This really is in the realm of you deciding based on your own conscience whether or not you're going to watch a certain VTuber, because I can give you lots of examples of other VTubers I watch who don't pretend to be demons with their models. I think of Maid Minto, where she pretends to be a ghost, or Doki Bird, who's literally just a person. There's Filian, who's just a cat girl, I think, or Samako Saba, who's just a fish. But my point is, these are examples of VTuber models and characters that they play which aren't demonic, aren't sexualized a lot of the time, and I like watching them because they're cute. They play video games, they have really energetic personalities, and I like watching them because of that, because it brightens my day. I also need to say this as well, especially in regard to Iron Mouse, because there is a lot of good work that she has done in terms of charity work and raising money for immunodeficiency. And to Iron Mouse's own story, the reason she says that she decided to become a VTuber herself was because of her own immunodeficiency. She talks about how she didn't have a lot of friends growing up because of her condition, and VTubing became her way of finding and building a community. She gained the self-confidence to be able to find online friends and make content online because of VTubing, and because she didn't have to put her real face online. So on one hand, I definitely really don't like that there are a lot of VTubers who use sexualized models or try to pretend to be demons. That is definitely something that we as Christians have to be aware of when we're watching them, and something that would lead us to stop watching certain VTubers who really lean into that. But I just wanted to acknowledge that there is a lot of good that they are all able to do. It's a really surreal thing for someone to have that ability to attract an audience. Some of those in the audience didn't really have a great day. They're really depressed. There's something amazing about that ability for them to put a smile on those people's faces. Work might have sucked that day, but at least they look forward to watching their favorite VTuber just chill and play video games. And it's even more of a reason for us as Christians to continue spreading the gospel. I want to be able to tell these VTubers that they don't need to depend on sexual imagery to become successful, that they shouldn't be basing their model off of demonic imagery, because they could really be opening themselves up to spiritual warfare that they couldn't possibly know how to handle. So it's actually even more reason for us as Christians to enter into this space and act in a Christ-like manner. So I know I've just outlined all of the negative aspects of VTubing in that first bit of the video, but I now want to list some of the reasons why VTubing is actually a really good technology for Christians to use and enter into. Let's address why someone might want to get into VTubing in the first place. We see in today's culture that there's a lot of canceling, there's a lot of online drama, and there are consequences for what you say online that affect the real world. I think one of the main reasons why Christians actually don't get into content creation like YouTube, Twitch, TikTok is because there's a lot of fear that if we put ourselves online and put our real faces on there, that there are all of those risks of content creation that we have to deal with. There may be people in the real world who recognize you outside and they might just start harassing you. There's stalking and doxing and people who genuinely fear for their life because people send death threats, and that then makes content creation a risk. That's why VTubing is really good, and I think one of the primary reasons why people have gotten into it, especially for the women, they don't want to risk their privacy. They still want a normal life in the real world. They still want to become a streamer or YouTuber, so VTubing is this really low risk way of still putting a human face on the content that you're making, but you don't have to risk your job or your privacy or your safety in this process of you becoming a more public figure. I can think of how this technology is really applicable for Christians in countries where there's a lot of severe persecution, where if you preach the gospel and people recognize your face, not only do you lose your connections in your community, not only do you risk torture, but you also risk possible death. Now, that may just be the price that you have to pay for being a Christian, but that's easy for me to say as I live in a country where it's really comfortable for me being a Christian, where the worst thing people can do to you is just insult you or be mean to you. So I think VTubing has a lot of possibilities for online evangelism for people living in countries like in China, Pakistan, India, Iran, and those people are still able to act in their gift of teaching and communication, but they can do it in a way which is safer. Now, you might challenge me by saying, what about the apostles who were all tortured and killed for their faith? Aren't you copying out and not following their example by being a VTuber instead? My response is that there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of people who should really be using their gifts in evangelism, and this isn't a skill that everyone has. There are very specific people who have been given by God those skills, so it would be far more effective for the kingdom if they were able to live their lives out longer by preaching in a manner which does not infringe upon their personal safety. And that also applies to us in Western countries where there are consequences if you become this big YouTuber where everyone recognizes your face. What if you don't want everyone to recognize you? That's the beauty of VTubing, which it allows all sorts of people who have the talent, gifts, and skills for content creation to then be able to do it with confidence, privacy, and safety. Now that brings me to the topic of the viewers themselves. It's no surprise for the majority of female VTubers, most of their audience is going to be majority men. And for male VTubers, the majority of their audience is going to be women. You can spend any time in a VTuber stream and just make observations of the super chats that come in, where $100 is dropped at any time. How many YouTube memberships or Twitch subscribers that these VTubers have. I think this just goes to show that there's a lot of people out there who definitely have their life somewhat together because they've got jobs. Where else is that money coming from if not from that? But it just goes to show you that there's a lot of loneliness out there and the need for a relationship that a lot of VTuber fans have, which is being fulfilled by the VTubers that they are watching. For us as Christians, this is the most important thing that we have to reflect on. Are we watching VTubers for entertainment because it's a thing that's just cool to see every now and again? Or are we watching VTubers in a healthy way? Or are you watching them because you're scared to make friends? Or you don't have a community to depend on in the real world? We as Christians should place our ultimate hope in Christ. We should be drawing in closer with other Christians in community and churches and be spending our resources building the kingdom. There isn't anything wrong with watching a VTuber or even just sending them a super chat. There's no problem with supporting the creators who make your content and you're able to support them. But I hope you get my point here that our ultimate goal and our ultimate hope is not a VTuber. It's to then look back to Jesus Christ, who is the author and perfecter of our faith and the person who brings us our ultimate salvation. Now, if you are interested more in learning about myself and my channel, these two videos are really good to get you started. You might want to look at the biblical story of the Good Samaritan and an example of that in anime, or you might want to look at my video on baptism and why I believe you need to be baptized to get to heaven.